My name's Tyler, and I've been going to 1122 since it was at Beach United Methodist in 2010. I was in service, and I think I heard Joby saying, "Do you know who Jesus is?" I heard it as if you've known him in the past. I raised my hand, and at that point I was like, oh, this isn't really what I thought he said. But in that moment, I was like, this feels right. I didn't know Jesus the way I needed to at the time. And I kept it raised. And then from that point on, things started changing in my life. And it wasn't easier. It got harder, almost immediately. The depression became noticeable. It was almost like a weight on your soul. And this went on for months afterwards. And I continued to go to church because it was the only place I felt some sort of relief. It was a few months later that it was the first time I ever thought about suicide. And I mean, it did start off as, who cares if I take all these pills and fall asleep and just don't wake up? But there was one service where at the end of the service, Pastor Chris, he mentioned the Respond car in the seat back. So I figured I'd write one, just asking to get through every day, not feeling like there was a weight on me. I didn't think anyone would read it or pray over it, but I had a couple people reach out, and I ended up coming into the church and meeting up with them. I remember leaving and the weight was still there. I cannot live every day like this. And I decided nothing could stop me. I was going to take my own life. I was about 3 minutes from my house, and I get a call from a random number, and I just found myself answering it. And the first thing I heard was, "God told me to call you." But it was Joby, and he had reached out 3 minutes before I planned on taking my own life. I've never talked to him in my life. The only thing I knew about him was that he preached at 1122. I went from, I don't even think God is real. Why would he allow me to feel this way? To, God told me to call you 3 minutes before I planned on taking my own life. I mean, that'll wake you up. That'll make you realize that he is listening. And since that moment, God did heal me of depression. I have never struggled like that again. It's been 10 years since that, and I have not experienced that since. I really learned the difference in I know who Jesus is, and then I know Jesus. That was the moment that I did pick up my cross and follow him. God called me in to be an EMT, so I got to share my testimony with a lot of people, and 90% of them have either thought about suicide or actually attempted suicide. It's been interesting how God's used me, put me in a job I never thought I could do, only to work with people that struggle with the exact same thing. A lot of people, a lot. God saved my life physically and spiritually. He saved me from that depression. He healed me from that so that I'm able to communicate from a point of view of knowing Jesus, what it looks like to walk through that. And even when the struggles are unbearable, know that he's there